She starred in a famous World War II-era propaganda campaign and eventually became one of the most famous icons in American history. But who exactly was Rosie the Riveter? And what's the real story behind her well-known image? To start with, it's not really about a riveter named Rosie. It's not even about one woman, but about millions. After the United States entered World War II in late 1941, government and industrial leaders called on American women to join the workforce in order to replace manpower lost when men enlisted as soldiers. Some 6 million would answer that call. Between 1940 and 1945, the female demographic of the national workforce increased from 27% to nearly 37%. Half of these working women took on tough jobs in defense industries. Rosie was first introduced to the public in a popular song called Rosie the Riveter, released in early 1943. The song was made famous by swing band leader James Kern K. Kaiser. Norman Rockwell had undoubtedly heard the song when he painted a female riveter on her lunch break for the Memorial Day issue of the Saturday Evening Post that year. Posed like the prophet Isaiah in Michelangelo's famous fresco on the Sistine Chapel ceiling, she rests her foot on a battered copy of Hitler's Mein Kampf. Her riveting gun rests on her lap, while her lunchbox clearly reads Rosie. Rockwell's model was a dental hygienist named Mary Keefe, but was there a real Rosie the Riveter? After Rockwell's cover appeared on newsstands, the press lost no time in casting real-life Rosies. One of the most well-known was Rose Will Monroe, who worked as a riveter of B-24 and B-49 bomber airplanes at the Willow Run Aircraft Factory in Ypsilanti, Michigan. Monroe appeared in a promotional video for war bonds after a chance run-in with a Hollywood actor filming at the factory. But Rosie the Riveter was bigger than just one woman. She was a symbol of the wartime work and sacrifice of millions. Though Rockwell's painting was the original depiction of Rosie, she is most widely identified with a different image. In 1942, the year before the Rosie song was released, the Westinghouse Power Company commissioned J. Howard Miller to create a promotional poster that would boost morale among its employees. The now famous poster featured a bandana-clad woman flexing her arm muscles under the slogan, "We can do it." Due to copyright restrictions on Rockwell's work, Miller's "We Can Do It" poster was adopted by the feminist movement of the 1980s as a modern symbol of female empowerment. It is now the image most commonly associated with Rosie. From wartime propaganda to feminist symbol, Rosie has remained a riveting icon in American history.
All the day long, whether rain or shine, she's a part of the assembly line. She's making history, working for victory. Rosie the Riveter keeps a sharp lookout for sabotage, sitting up there on the fuselage. That little frail can do more than a male can do. Rosie the Riveter. Rosie's got a boyfriend, Charlie. Charlie, he's a Marine. Rosie is protecting Charlie, working overtime on the riveting machine. When they gave her a production knee, she was as proud as a girl could be. There's something true about red, white, and blue about Rosie the Riveter. Rosie the Riveter. Rosie, 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 working on assembly line. Bubble day, bubble dee dee leave it on that day. Reeby boy, reeby boy, reeby. Rosie, Rosie, Rosie the Riveter on the assembly line.
That's all. Norman Rockwell's painting of Rosie the Riveter from 1943.
We see this woman who is muscular and tough and wearing goggles and eating a ham sandwich and wearing denim overalls. That iconic image of the support that women lent on the home front for World War II.
Thousands and thousands of women entered the workforce during the war. Men went to serve in the war, and women served their country by going to work, taking the place of men.
If you were able to see a picture of the woman who sat as Rockwell's model for Rosie, she was much more feminine, but he marries her face with the prophet Isaiah that is at the top of the Sistine Chapel. That figure that Michelangelo created was this incredibly muscular figure. So in a way, this is a male figure onto which a female head and then also a more voluptuous body is created. He also uses that point of view that Michelangelo used so well, having us, the viewer, look up at the figure. Anytime that you're looking from below, it makes the figure loom larger.
And that machine she's carrying, the riveter that she used to construct airplanes, it looks heavy. It looks like she must have been very strong to carry that and to do her job.
You get the sense that she has the power, both the physical power, but also the grit to be successful. And I love the way that she is holding her lunchbox, which gives us her name, Rosie, and she is almost holding it like an animal claw going over it that is, again, so strong. She's on her lunch in this picture, but there is nothing relaxed about her. She is on a mission, and she is never going to waver. We have the stars and stripes reminding us her reason for taking on this work. And at the same time, if you look at her feet, and she's wearing just such an American pair of loafers.
Oh, and I love her socks.
And don't you love her socks? And you can just really feel the texture of them. But she is standing and crushing a copy of Mein Kampf. This painting is created in 1943. America's increasing connection to the war, lending that power that would allow the Germans to be defeated, was really coming into its own at this moment. We see the home version of what's helping that happen.
I just want to throw in my favorite part, which is what's tucked into her pocket. Because in all of her strength, in all of the way that she reads in a masculine way, she's got a compact and a handkerchief. She's working in this job that is traditionally a man's job, wearing man's clothing and these masculine-looking shoes and socks. She's not forgetting her femininity.
Another detail that I just love in this painting is the row of buttons. You see a red cross pin. You also see a V for victory pin. You see some other buttons that relate to supporting organizations that were lending help, particularly those that women were engaged in for the war. But here they also act as her jewelry. In another circumstance, if she had had on her white cotton blouse and her skirt, she would have probably had on a necklace to go with. But here, the organizational buttons provide that. There are so many things that were overturned during this World War II period as far as what was acceptable for women to do. And it's interesting because after the war, there was a real tension and real challenges, particularly in the workplace, because women proved that they could do the job of men. And when you had veterans coming home who, of course, wanted their jobs back, there was, on the one hand, this great freedom that women felt. And they really felt that they could go on and do so many more things than, say, in the pre-war era. But at the same time, there was a conversation around what really is a woman's proper place.
Rosie, Rosie, Rosie the Riveter, on the